Love is one of the most profound, complex and universal experiences of human life. It shapes our connections, drives our decisions, and for the most part writes a huge portion of our life stories. But what if love itself is a story? This is the central idea of Robert Sternberg's book, Love is a Story, a New Theory of Relationships, published back in 1998. I'm sharing this with you because to this day it remains a powerful set of ideas. Here he proposes an alternative perspective on how we experience and sustain romantic relationships. Sternberg, a renowned psychologist, suggests that love isn't just a feeling or set of behaviours, it's a narrative we construct, a story we tell ourselves and our partners about what love means and how it should unfold. This theory invites us to see love as a dynamic, evolving tale shaped by our beliefs, expectations and experiences. In this video, we'll dive into Sternberg's Love as a Story theory, unpack its key concepts, and if it's your first time being exposed to these ideas, hopefully it will provide you a whole new perspective on what love actually is. At the heart of Sternberg's theory is the idea that each of us carries an internal love story, a kind of mental script or narrative that defines what we think love is, how it should feel, and what roles we and our partners should play. These stories aren't just random, they're shaped by our upbringing, culture, biologically driven personality types, personal experiences, and even movies, books, or songs that resonate with us. Think for a moment, when you imagine falling in love, do you picture a passionate, all-consuming romance like in The Notebook? Or maybe a steady, practical partnership where you build a life together, like a cozy sitcom couple? These images reflect the love stories you've internalized. Sternberg argues that our love stories guide how we approach relationships. They influence who we're attracted to, how we behave with our partners, and what we expect from love. For example, if your love story is about being soulmates destined to be together, you might seek a partner who feels like your other half and expect a relationship filled with intense connection. But if your story is about love as a business partnership, you might prioritize compatibility, shared goals, and mutual support over fiery passion. What makes this theory so compelling is its emphasis on individuality. No two people's love stories are exactly the same, and this explains why relationships can feel so different from one couple to the next. In fact, this is one of the main reasons why love can be so frustrating, because it's not quite the same thing for any two people. This sheds light on why some relationships thrive while others fail. When partners' love stories align, the relationship feels harmonious. When they clash, conflict arises. Our own ideal stories about love could be the most important thing we learn about ourselves when it comes to relationships, because common love stories is the foundation for good communication and long-term success. So let's explore how this works by diving into Sternberg's framework and the types of love stories he describes. The theory itself builds on the idea that love stories have three key components. The narrative itself, this is the overarching plot of your love story. It's the framework you use to make sense of love, like love is a fairy tale or love is a journey of growth. The narrative sets the tone for what you expect from a relationship. Then there's roles. Every story has characters, and in your love story, you and your partner play specific roles. For example, in a rescuer story, one partner might see themselves as the savior and the other as someone needing help. These roles shape how you interact. Then finally, expectations and behaviors. Your love story dictates what you expect from yourself and your partner. If your story is about sacrifice, you might expect both of you to put the relationship above personal desires. If it's about independence, you might value personal space and freedom. So what's the catch? Your partner has their own love story too. For a relationship to work, your stories don't have to be identical, but they need to be compatible. Imagine trying to blend a love is a war story where passion and conflict are central with a love is a garden story where nurturing and stability reign supreme. This mismatch could lead to misunderstandings. One partner craves intensity while the other seeks calm. Sternberg's book, drawing on extensive research and fascinating real-world relationship examples, outlines 26 distinct love stories, as I've detailed here in my infographic. Each has distinctive advantages and pitfalls, many of which are incredibly incompatible. Ever observed a relationship from the outside and wondered, how is this couple still together because all they do is fight? Yet on the other hand, a so-called perfect relationship breaks down, seemingly without reason. Could it be, for instance, that in the example of the more toxic relationship, both partners idealized the war story, so were in fact already in the perfect relationship for them, but for the seemingly strong, balanced relationship, they both idolized very different stories? While Sternberg's book breaks down all 26 stories in great detail, let's take a quick glance at 3 of them for some more context here. First, the war story. In this narrative, love is a battlefield filled with passion, conflict, and intensity. Partners might thrive on drama, seeing arguments as a sign of deep investment in the relationship as they continue to go back and forth in a breakup and makeup style cycle. In such a relationship, fiery arguments lead to equally passionate reconciliations. They both believe love means fighting for each other, so their clashes feel meaningful. But if one partner starts wanting peace and stability all of a sudden, their mismatched stories could begin to strain the relationship. Or the garden story. Love as a garden is about nurturing, patience, and growth. Partners see themselves as gardeners tending to their relationship with care, knowing it takes time to flourish. Such a couple would prioritize communication and mutual support. They work through challenges calmly, like tending to a plant, and feel fulfilled by their steady progress. If, however, one partner suddenly craves a more adventurous, spontaneous love story, the other might feel uprooted or abandoned. And finally, the travel story. This story sees love as a journey of exploration and growth. Partners are co-travelers learning about themselves and each other along the way. It emphasizes shared experiences and adaptability. Such a couple would love trying new things together, traveling the world, taking classes, or tackling new challenges. Their story thrives on discovery, but if one partner suddenly wants to settle down into a different narrative, they might start to drift apart. These are just a few of Sternberg's 26 stories, but they show the diversity of how we conceptualize love. Some stories, like the addiction story, involve dependency and intensity, while others, like the teacher-student story, revolve around one partner guiding the other. The key is recognizing that no story is inherently better than another. What matters is whether the stories of both partners can coexist. This is something his book does a great job in analyzing. So why do stories matter? It's about compatibility and conflict, which is at the heart of it all. Sternberg's theory really shines when it explains why relationships succeed or struggle. When partners' love stories align, they're more likely to understand each other's needs and expectations. For example, two people with a garden story might both prioritize nurturing their bond, creating a stable, fulfilling relationship. But when stories clash, misunderstandings arise. If one partner sees love as a game, for example, which is playful and competitive, while the other sees it as a sacrifice, selfless and serious, they might misinterpret each other's actions. The game partner's teasing could feel dismissive to the sacrifice partner who expects devotion. This is where Sternberg's theory is so relatable. Think about a time when you argued with a partner over something that seemed trivial but felt deeply personal. Maybe you wanted more quality time, but they prioritized independence. Or perhaps you craved grand romantic gestures, but they showed love through quiet acts of service. These mismatches often stem from differing love stories. By understanding your own story and your partner's, you can bridge the gap through communication and compromise, or recognize when a relationship just isn't sustainable. This concept may explain why so many relationships fail. Our stories, for the most part, lurk in the subconscious, but we do have both conscious and subconscious stories or ideals about what love should be for us, and they are in constant battle with each other. For example, a person who subconsciously seeks a partner as a project, someone who they can improve, finds the so-called perfect partner on paper to everyone else around them, yet the relationship leads to failure. Why? Because in the perfect partner, there is nothing more for them to improve. If the subconscious wants a partner that they can improve, then the perfect partner will not be enough. In fact, the perfect partner for them is the one with room for improvement, not already perfect. Furthermore, once they're done improving their partner, if there is no longer a project, they will move on because they seek someone they can consistently improve. On the surface, or to those outside looking in, this seems to go against all reason. But if someone can't give you the story you desire, or it's no longer intensive enough, it just won't work out. Stories have a time limit. They run out, like in this instance I just gave. Once a person has fulfilled or maximized a story with another, they can look to recycle and pursue the same stories in someone new. This is the brutal truth. More often than not, when people don't stick together and work on their relationships, it's because the relationship is limiting one person's ability to self-realize their own love story or ideals they hold about love and what it should be. This is where love and relationship shows us how egotistical we are. Once a partner becomes useless to another in realizing their love story, they are dumped and people just move on. The stories that Sternberg writes about are largely unconscious perceptions guiding our romantic choices. It's when we become aware of the kind of story we have about love that we arm ourselves with powerful knowledge to create more fulfilling, long-lasting relationships. The kind of relationships we create is based on the kind of stories we hold about love inside. It's what draws us so strongly to some people and repels us from others. This is what makes some relationships work so smoothly and others burst into flames. As long as we remain oblivious to the role our stories play, we are likely to repeat the same mistakes in relationships again and again. This theory suggests that although these largely subconscious stories drive our approach to relationships, we can revise them or learn to choose partners whose stories are more compatible with our own. We only know people through our perceptions of them, and there is no objective right story of love in a relationship. Commonly, during a divorce, for instance, each partner has completely different so-called stories about the fallout, or their relationship has diverged so far apart that there's no longer any points of similarity. It's as if they're talking about different relationships. This can also be the case when one partner is leaving the other. In most cases, the partner wanting to break thinks it's well known and the writing's been on the wall for some time, yet the other partner is caught completely off guard. Again, their stories have diverged to such a degree that communication in the relationship becomes almost an illusion. Sternberg's love as a story theory is powerful because it's both intuitive and profound. It acknowledges that love isn't just about chemistry or compatibility, it's about the meaning we individually assign to it. Each partner has a story of what they believe love is in their relationship and what love ideally should be. A couple's stories and ideals about love may or may not coincide, it's bidirectional. You might not have what she wants, she might not have the story you want, or your stories could be perfectly compatible. Survival of a relationship could depend on how closely our love stories align with what relationship we are actually in. In fact, relationships forming, breaking down, or not materializing in the first place is largely down to the love stories we hold within us. By framing love as a story, Sternberg gives us a language to understand our desires and conflicts. It's like holding up a mirror to your relationships, helping you see why you love the way you do and how you can love better. After all, who we love, don't love, or fall out of love with depends on our love stories. If you've always felt unfulfilled in relationships, it could be because your partners didn't match your vision of love. Sternberg's theory might help you realize you're chasing love in the wrong places, or maybe you've clashed with a partner who seemed too intense because their war story didn't mesh with your garden approach. By naming these narratives, you can make sense of past struggles and approach future relationships with more clarity. Ultimately, Robert Sternberg's Love as a Story invites us to see love as a creative personal narrative, one that we write and rewrite throughout our lives. By understanding our own love stories and those of our partners, there is no doubt we can build stronger, more empathetic relationships. Whether you see love as a fairy tale, a partnership, a battle, or a journey, the key is finding someone whose story complements yours, or being willing to co-author a new one together. This theory isn't just academic, it's a tool for self-discovery and connection. We'll begin breaking down Sternberg's individual love stories in upcoming videos, along with new stories that I myself have conceptualized. So for all of that and more, like, share and subscribe if you're finding value in the content, and I hope to see you again in the next one.